Okay. Fog. Been doing a lot of shit today. Alright. Time to get the reaction cap on. So, what are y'all throwing at me today? Friggin' hell, I must have inhaled like 50 gallons of chemicals and pesticides and shit today. It sucks. I'm probably dying as we speak. Oh well, too bad, so sad. My son will be a millionaire when I'm gone. So who cares, right? That being said, that out of the way, from the Discord. Link in the description box down below if you give a shit to know. From Draconian PK. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe, by the way. A request. Warhammer 40K song Change from Colm R McGuinness. I like this kid. He's pretty cool. Alright, you ready? I'm not. Let's jump in.
Hey, I think we're the same. They'll say I'm deranged, I just don't like things all staying the same. Wait, we're on the same page. We both know that destiny is a web instead of a chain. Hell, I'm taking the reins, erasing the rut they're keeping you in, it's full of snakes. Well, now don't be ashamed, 'cause you and I know that one thing that makes them afraid.
You know what? This sounds like a good drinking song. If I had a tavern, I'd have a tavern. Not a bar, not a club. Okay, if I could own anything, like that. Okay, it'd be a tavern or a pub. Okay, tavern or pub, not a club, not a spot like back in my day. OG ghetto kid here who used to sneak into the clubs all the time at the age of like 12. A tavern or a pub. Period. That's it. That being said, we both know that fate is a web, not a chain. I don't know. Some people seem chained to their particular, strand of the web of their destiny. That seems to be a thing. I don't know. But yeah, this does sound like a Zinch thing, for sure.
Change, it's time to see fade. We'll keep you in chains, why would you cling to something so strange? Things try to stay the same. It's not how we'll make deep down, I steer you right, but for now it's just too much to explain. Same, a stagnant flame. You keep you bound to DNA, it's a disgrace. Say, you're asking my name. Well, it's a long introduction, but you can call me Change. It's time to see fade. We'll keep you in chains, why would you cling to something so strange? Shouldn't stay the same. It's not how we'll make deep down, I steer you right, but for now it's just too much to explain. Child, it's true. Well, I see them tighten your loosely, heavy clad in cold and blue. I think you'd be fetching in your distant hues. They say knowledge is a curse. Well, I can't picture anything much worse than seeing the truth, but never learning to trade when it was all just claiming to be remade.
You know what? I can get that. And you know what? I can I can relate to it from a different source. Not that it's chaos related in any way, shape, or form, because this is reality and this is something totally different. But when it comes to training new people, all right, so someone who spent a good, huge, giant amount of his career training others. Hell, at Fort Knox alone, when I was NCOIC of one of the training regiments, whew, okay, well, for a short while, also, I was also at the brigade level because we were short staffed. Hard. Then again, nobody really wanted that. Nobody really wanted to be at Fort Knox at that time. But yeah, so I was in when I was in COIC of training for cadets and kids that were going through the officer program to go through school. Um, when it came to that, they had not gone through basic yet, and we were over strength when it came to the influx. Um, we had a yeah, overstrength would be we had too many that came in all at once, and they weren't denying nobody, so we had to make do with what we had to facilitate them, and that ended up being at Fort Knox, Kentucky. By the way, Louisville was pretty good. I liked some parts of Louisville. Others, anyway. But yeah, so we were overstrength by a lot when it came to the influx of cadets and trainees for the program. So we basically had to do a real quick and fast, turnaround. We had to have them give them a basic training. Okay, get them used to, customs and courtesies, traditions, getting them to learn ranks and how to address each one, the difference between an officer and an NCO, between enlisted and commission, and then when it came to the technical, you know, uh, uh, the technical ranks as well, getting to know those, like the warrants, all of that stuff. Familiarization, training, and indoctrination as well, because you have to indoctrinate them into the customs and courtesies for, each of what, for whom, and where and why, right? The difference between a salute, and just a friendly address are different things. Not to mention marching, right? So drill and ceremony was another thing we had to rush in real quick. We only got about a week per thing, per thing on the task list. So our medal was basically per week we'd have to get a few things done, for sure. And then they had to do a basic combat training as well at the end of it all, and then they had to get through that all within a month per cycle. It was a goddamn nightmare. But when it comes to training new people, right? The very best ones were the ones that were easy, very easily given to authority. So they would, for sure, listen to what you said. And if they didn't understand, right, it didn't take much to correct them. So you had to change, kids, a lot of them still in high school and some of them in, early college and others, a bit older, but whatever. Um, you had to change and mold them into somebody different, slightly. The underlying individual is still there, but you have to mold them into a unit. And you have to train them from being individual minded and individually thinking to team mindset, to a unit mindset, to a military mindset, right? So anyway, I know a thing or two about change. Just saying. Not to mention they were also nasty little suckers too. I'd be catching them out in the porta potties. Like so basically for the last 2 weeks of the month, they'd be out and doing, all the stuff that would be included with field training, doing a FTX for like their basic combat training and all of that. And and basically like a ultra shortened and condensed form of you know basic training for anyone who's been through it in 2 weeks. We got as much done as we could. We still did a good job, but we got as much done as we could. But yeah, I kept catching these freaking kids in the porta potties, and the porta johns out in the FTX, banging. No joke. You don't even get to shower out there, right? And while I was hanging out with them, I didn't get a shower either. If I'm not gonna lead someone through some shit if I'm not doing the same shit as they are. Lead by example. NCO's creed. Hua. Any shoe. But yeah, I've been catching them in the porta johns and shit like that all the time, or out in the woods a couple of times. It's like, fuck, come on, you can't wait 2 weeks until you're out of my goddamn hair, my non-existent hair. But yeah, no, and when it came to them, what had to happen was we had to kick them out because it was that or UCMJ. And after the first few, dozen UCMJs within the same cycle, out of a troop of about 500, freaking, they got all the sergeant majors together, and the colonel was like, "Okay, look, just fast track them out of the program, boot them and blacklist them and flag them. Just boot them out. We don't have time for all these fucking UCMJs and keep them on a roll and all that kind of shit or on roster or nothing. Just boot them. They're done. They can't re-enlist. They can't come back into the commissioner. They can't come back into the officers program. They're done with all candidate programs. They can't serve in any capacity in the military period. Blacklist them. They're done. Kick them out. We don't have time for this shit." And I was like, okay. But Jesus. Anyway.
Hey, I'm not tempting fate. I'm tearing it down. We're being held back and he's to blame. Wait, I see you're afraid. Well, I got one thing that might do the trick, and it's change. It's time to see fate. We'll keep you in chains. Why would you cling to something so strange? Things try to stay the same. It's not how I'm made deep down. I steer you right, but for now it's just too much to explain.
I wasn't expecting it to end there. Well, anyway, this is pretty fun. This is pretty good. He's a cool kid. But yeah, friggin' when it comes to like Zinch and all that stuff, who's to say that the Weaver of Fate, the Lord of Change, the Master of Sorcerers, when he says he's the most powerful one, who's to say he's not a freaking liar? How do you know? You don't. That's the issue. Anyway, that being said, this is pretty cool. I liked it. But what did you think? What do you think? You let me know in the comments down below. All right, know what time it is. Be good. Be safe. Make your life for yourselves. Don't compromise safety and security for nobody and nothing. The disaster's only a second away. Do what you can today, and I will see y'all in the next one. I am Badger 7 Actual, a formerly homeless veteran. Blast Cat Badger, out.